Hi, my name is K.Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Michael Martens KB9VBR. Michael has had a very popular ham radio YouTube channel for, I think, nearly 7 years. He has over 60,000 subscribers, nearly 7 million views to date. And he and I recently intersected over a project we're working on for Parks on the Air. And I just thought it'd be a good idea to have him on the show to talk about his ham radio experience and specifically his YouTube experience. Michael, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be on your show today.
So let's start with where you are. It's always interesting to me to know who I'm talking to and where. What part of the country are you in, Michael?
I'm located in Wausau, Wisconsin. Wausau is kind of in the north central part of the state. So if you think about the state of Wisconsin, we're kind of halfway between Green Bay, home of the Green Bay Packers, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, where, of course, the Vikings play.
And tell me about your ham radio background. How did you get into this phenomenal hobby that we're sharing?
I got my license back in 1999. It's turning about 30 years old, and I thought, now would be I've had 2 kids, and now would be a good time to kind of get a hobby or something like that. I've always had an interest in amateur radio. Probably spanning way back when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I got a world band radio as a Christmas gift, and I really love listening to the shortwave bands, the international broadcasters, and things like that. So I thought, well, back then I thought, well, maybe I should get my ham radio license and take the next step as a precocious 13-year-old. Well, I checked out a book in the library and read a little bit about it, and then realized, I'm going to have to learn Morse code. And things just kind of went on the back burner for that, because I really didn't have anybody to sort of help me take me to that next level. Move ahead about a few years, and the bug bit again. And fortunately, I didn't have to learn Morse code at that time, but I did, because I wanted my Technician Plus license to get on at least the 10-meter band, and took the test, passed the novice and the technician, got the Morse code by the skin of my teeth. About 6 months later, upgraded the general, and a few years after that, I grabbed my extra license.
And Michael, I like to always point out that the hobby has a lot of different niches. I mean, people are into contesting, DXing, portable operations. And I know you through your Parks on the Air activations, and also you have some great YouTubes that recap those. But you're actually interested in a lot of different areas in ham radio.
My ham radio interest has been kind of, sort of long-term and wide-spanning. And, when I first got into it, I was really interested in the emergency communications aspect, Aries races, storm spotting, things like that. And I've done that for a very long time. I served as our emergency coordinator and district emergency coordinator for the Aries races group. But it's sort of, if there's always something, the thing about amateur radio I really like is it's such a big tent, and there's always something new to kind of learn. And I've always been interested in other facets of the hobby, amateur television, the fast scan amateur television. HF has always been fun. I enjoyed, participating in QSO contests. I'm not really a DXer. Do a little bit of casual contesting, but I always like exploring these little niches and see where they kind of take me down. Not really, deep into the rabbit hole, but enough to kind of, gain some interest and sort of expand, my overall breadth of the amateur radio hobby.
Michael, I certainly want to talk about your YouTube channel. That really intrigues me, the success you've had there. But I think before we get to that, you actually started making antennas. I think you became known for the JPOL antenna. Tell me about that. How did you get started in that business?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's I've kind of been long known as the JPOL person. I It's all started back, more than 20 years ago. And at that time, I was really big into APRS, the Automated Packet Reporting System. And at Field Day, we were going to set up an APRS demonstration station. So, dug out a laptop, at the TNC and all that, and the radio, but I needed an antenna to take out to the Field Day site. So I said, well, why don't I build just like a JPOL antenna? They were, it's easy to do. To put together. They work quite well for VHF like that. So I built a JPOL antenna, took it out to Field Day. We ran it on the demonstration station. It worked great. And one of the local hams said, hey, do you mind selling that antenna? I need something for my cottage up north. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And sold them the antenna. So now I'm down an antenna. I got to make another one. So I put another one together, and figuring out, how simple they are and how well they work, I said, well, maybe I should make a few more and try them on eBay. And I did that. And one thing led to another. And 22 years later, I'm selling thousands of these things.
I love that story. I mean, it seems like that's the basis of a lot of small businesses, right? It starts almost by accident and with a passion. So congratulations on your success with that. So let's get to YouTube. How and maybe why did you ever decide back in, I think, 2006, 2007 to start a YouTube channel?
Well, I've always had an interest in video production. I've got a degree in communication arts, and so filmmaking, video production have been a passion for me. Photography, I've been doing still photography since I was like 10 years old. So it felt natural when YouTube came along in those early days to start experimenting with it. And the first YouTube videos where kind of work-related training type videos. Moving along, as I was growing my antenna business, I said, I should take my knowledge of production, those skills, and use it as a marketing tool. Because if I can start making compelling online content, I can drive people to my website and I can sell more of my antennas. And at this time, I've been self-employed for a couple of years. And when you're self-employed, you're always looking for new streams of income. So, it seemed like a natural. So I started producing amateur radio-related content. This is probably around 2014, 2015. Slowly at first, and just sort of getting the hang of things. And a couple of years after that, the channel's starting to grow. And I said, well, maybe I should really sort of capitalize on this, and really seriously thought about how YouTube and online content creation can be a thing on its own, in addition to selling the antennas. And there's where sort of my general purpose amateur radio YouTube channel came about.
So you certainly were gaining experience in that space before you decided to flip into ham radio YouTube videos. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Because before that, I was doing some freelance stuff for other people, and producing their kind of content. And as I started growing my channel and feeling more confident in the ham radio side of things, I've really kind of just focused my entire production ability and skills into that content.
Well, I've got to say, your educational background, your experience with production certainly shows in the quality of your videos. I think you might agree that there's a lot of content out there that leaves a lot to be desired from a quality standpoint. And that's not any criticism to anybody. I think everybody's doing the best they can, but clearly your video content, it has a narrative arc, it has great photography, the audio is always solid. It's commendable. What a great job you've done.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. I've with my experience and educational background, I've kind of learned the things that what really makes for a successful video or film production easily translates over into YouTube. I know a lot of people, say that YouTube is, you got to be quick, you got to be dirty, you got to just put, just take your phone and hit record, but I really like to take a lot more care and skill into that. A lot of times, when I'm putting a video together, at the very least, I've got an outline of where I want to go and how I want to get there. The more, if it's anything where I'm demonstrating how I'm going to do something, say if I'm building something like an antenna or a kit, or I'm explaining or describing some kind of concept, that'll all be scripted out, so that when it comes to the editing process, I can put all of those pieces together much easily, more easily, have a more cohesive kind of solid flow, of my idea to a concept to a production to the finished product.
The other thing I've noticed, Michael, particularly when you're doing a Parks on the Air activation video, you have a lot of different camera angles, which is unusual. A lot of people will set up their camera or their iPhone, and it's one angle of them on the radio. And you add a lot of variety to that, from arriving to setting up your gear. And then even as you're operating, you typically have, again, a lot of different camera angles, which adds a lot of interest, but that's got to be a ton of work for you.
It is a ton of work. I would say probably, if I'm going to do a Parks on the Air activation and I want to record the whole thing, I'm going to spend at least twice as much time out there, because I got to do all of the video stuff. And I'll do, typically I'll do all of the B-roll first, all of the background stuff, before I even get on the air. So I have that stuff in the can, as they would say. I'll shoot the wide establishing shots. I'll make sure I grab close-ups of certain pieces, parts. The other types of footage that I can use to bridge from point A to point B, so that everything can kind of smoothly transition. Or if I've got something where I need to, say if I'm doing a cut, someplace, and it's not easy to kind of, put those two pieces together. What can I, how can I use a piece of additional footage in order to marry those two concepts? So there's always something. When I get on the air, then I'm really just focused on being on the air. But everything else, from between that and after that, I'm thinking about, well, what kind of additional value can I bring to this video?
So how are you marrying the two, the narrative, the visual look, and your passion for ham radio? Is the former kind of driving the decisions of where you go to activate?
It is a lot. A lot of times it is. And there's a few parks that I like to go to a lot. They're my local parks, and sometimes I don't even record. I just might take a few still shots so I can do a blog post or something like that. When we're planning when my wife and I are planning our vacations, our trips, our camping trips for the summer, now we're to the point we're looking at places. Well, where do we want to go, and that we haven't been to before, so that we can explore and kind of bring back that additional stuff for a video. So a lot of times I'm looking at places. Well, okay, so we're going to go to this park this weekend, and what's interesting about this park? Well, I'm going to have to research the history a little bit. Why is it a state park? And then, it's this and this and this. So we're going to have to see X, Y, and Z, and try to figure out how we can bring those concepts into the video. Sometimes everything we see may not end, be in the final product. A lot of stuff ends up on the cutting room floor, but it's good to have that variety. And then when I'm there at the park, then I got to think about, well, I'm gonna need some stand-up shots, where I'm gonna have to introduce something. I'm gonna have to close out something. So I might have to write, maybe like 30 seconds of script. I found it easier. It used to be I'd try to do everything in the field, but now I found it easier. Well, all I need is 15 to 30 seconds telling people I am here, and then I can cut to a montage and then do voiceover after the fact, so I can have just a much tighter dialogue.
So it certainly begs the question, between the planning, the research, the B-roll, the actual operation, the breakdown, the editing. How much time do you have into each activation video?
Oh, so much. It's funny. The activation videos, they're my favorite type of content. I really like doing them. I like producing them. But sometimes they've got the lowest number of views. So it feels a little, a little frustrating that, I want people to see this and experience these same places I am, but sometimes they just don't gain the traction that other videos do. Uh, but I still soldier on because, like I said, that's my favorite part. I would say that typically, if we look at it at a weekend camping trip, we will, for example, I'm just going to say, the last one we were at, because that was a couple weeks ago. We were. And that'll probably be a video that'll be coming up in a very short amount of time. We were at Governor Dodge State Park in the southwestern part of the state. I filled up an entire 128 gigabyte memory card on the camera, which is about 2 hours and 45 minutes of shooting. And I probably didn't record all of the activation, but I might let the camera run for like the first half hour or something, so I get some good contacts on recorded that I can cut in. But then everything else was background stuff, the B-roll, the parks, traveling from point A to point B, some historical sites that we visited. And then I got to take all of that stuff home, ingest it into the computer, sort of try to make sense of it all. And then the part about assembling the video comes together. So when I start editing, I'll probably, if the activation video is going to be, I try to target around 22 minutes. I don't want to go longer than that, and shorter than that, sometimes you don't get the whole flavor. A 22-minute video will probably take me 4 to 5 hours to edit down, depending on how complex things are, if and how much stuff I got to go through.
And Michael, the other video content that I think you're really well known for is equipment, and I really enjoy those. You're able to provide people like myself an overview of either equipment options or a Parks in the Yard Go kit. Do you enjoy those?
I do. It's product reviews. Sometimes I really enjoy. Sometimes they're not my favorite thing to do. I've gotten really picky in reviews. I get emails all the time from companies wanting me to review their inexpensive handheld radio, and I pass up all of those because they're no fun to do. But other things, if it's something, if it's an item or if it's a product that I find a high degree of utility to, I find it, it really sparks an interest, and then I really kind of get into that, and I look really. Then I become really forward to thinking about how I can talk about this product in a new and a different way than what all of the other reviewers are saying about the product. So, I'll try to find a different angle, how I can kind of fit it into how that item will work in my everyday life and my Parks on the Air activations. So I'll demonstrate it, using it out in the field. Talking head videos are probably, one of my least favorites, but if I can get outside and, do more of that wild production, especially with a product review, I think it becomes a lot more interesting to the viewer.
So you're clearly a person with a plan. So what does the next 1 to 2 years look like for your YouTube channel? Where are you heading?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not sure exactly. I think that we're kind of about ready to turn a corner. I don't know where YouTube is going to go. I'm guessing that online video and online content creation is still going to grow, but I just have a weird feeling that we might be hitting that plateau, and I might need to look towards a different direction or whatnot. Not that I would ever let say goodbye to it completely. I think that I'll probably, I'm just going to keep moving ahead with what I'm doing 1 to 2 years down the road. Definitely going to refocus on more written or blog content. I seem to, I've put so much energy into video content that I want to kind of, make sure that those other social channels are well filled, well suited. I'm not the kind of person that really likes the super short form stuff, like the shorts and the TikToks or things like that. And maybe that's my age showing more than anything else. Long form narrative is what I really excel at. So if everything goes, if everything goes shorter and shorter, that might be a signal to me that I need to look in a different direction. But like I said, for at least for the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to still keep on going, and then just keep my eye focused ahead on where the next big thing is going to be.
Well, I'll certainly be looking forward to the next 1 or 2 years of the same content, but also just curious where you find additional platforms in the future. Michael, thank you for joining me today. Very much appreciated.
Hey, it's my pleasure. This was a great time.
I've been talking to Michael Martens, KB9VBR. You can check him out on his YouTube channel, KB9VBR Antennas, or his website, JPOLantennas.com. Is that right? Did I get the URL correct?
Yeah, JPOL-antenna.com.
Thank you for that correction. Please go check him out. Thank you, Michael. Have a good day.
You too.